Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Summer of Self-Love. I'm Mia Saenz, your host, and with me in this episode is Diana Eskander. And I've been chasing her around to interview her this year. I love her work, her beautiful spirit, her generosity, and the way that she sees femininity and love and the body. And so, welcome. It's really beautiful to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. It's about time we do an interview again, isn't it?
About time. I was just telling Mia yesterday, it's been 5 years.
Yeah. And the fact that I keep asking you is pretty powerful, right? It means you mean something to me.
I feel really honored for that to be the case.
Thank you. And I'm honored that you're here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's dig into self-love. Can you share with us your journey on how you got to know that there was something other than the life that you were living?
Oh my goodness. Okay, there are two paths, two stories I could tell. I will start with an eating disorder. So when I was 13, I developed bulimia, and it was kind of no surprise, just based on childhood things and things that I witnessed. And then, like a 4-year-old being concerned with, does my belly look big in this shirt? So like it's kind of no surprise that it led there, because it wasn't really no one really attuned to it, or helped guide that conversation I was having with myself, my own inner dialogue. And so I was, let's say, a victim of that for about 3 years, really, really feeling stuck, and also really having no one to talk to about it. And I tried to go see a therapist. It wasn't a match, which, now I know, okay, it's not always a match from the first time. You can give it a few more goes with different people and see who really fits. But I decided to go the road alone, which is not the easier road. And it was really probably around the age of 16, 17, where I started to really just ask myself, like, if you really love yourself, girl, is this what you would do? Like, you could really hurt yourself. You could end up having like really big, diseases or repercussions from these choices. What's your choice here? What do you want to choose for yourself? And so I would say it's when I really started practicing awareness, just like self-awareness. I didn't know that was the term. I didn't know what that even was, but to start noticing myself and to start to notice the triggers in my body that would say, oh, this it's going to happen, I'm going to do it. So to really become self-aware and then choose myself and to love myself through that, to the point that it would have me turn in the other direction and make another choice. And enough times of choosing me over and over again, it started to feel like my new way of being. And so I really say I saved myself through self-love and self-awareness.
It's really beautiful. I have to get a drink of water, otherwise I'm going to start coughing.
Yeah, go for it.
There was a lot of energy there.
Clearly.
Beautiful stuff, but a lot of energy. I do drink a ton of water a day, so I chose a pink jar.
Because why not?
Yeah, why not? Exactly. That's one form of my self-love.
There you go.
I love it. Look, that's a real the beautiful story. And it's also something that people don't have that ease, right? When we're brought to, and when I say that ease, I mean, like you said, you were asking questions and the answer came, and you didn't know the proper term yet. We never know in the very beginning when we're listening like that, but it allows us to move into something more beautiful, something expansive for us. Now, everybody can experience that because of their fears, right? They're not going on a journey to seek. What would you tell somebody? And it doesn't have to be food, because eating thing, because they're all interconnected, right? Whatever it is, whether it's the fear of dating or whether it's the fear of, somebody yelling at you. So what would you say to somebody who's been struggling with their issue for a long time, and they finally recognize, oh, this isn't working with me, but they don't know where to go. How would you guide them? Self.
You know, it's very hard for us to change anything if we don't take time to be with ourselves. You know, and I don't mean be with yourself and look at your phone and be with yourself and watch TV. That's great too. There's a moment in time for that. I just finished watching Marvelous Miss Maisel and it was amazing. You
That
know,
was
it's
a good show. Yeah.
there's a time and place for that, of course, but I really mean breathing, being silent, resting, listening, asking questions, you know, just really actually, and it'll feel uncomfortable. It'll feel really uncomfortable. So even if you start with 2 minutes and 3 minutes and 5 minutes and you're expanding your capacity, and I'm doing this with my body on purpose because it's like the pendulum. So, you know, swing into that space where you're with yourself and then you feel uncomfortable and it's too much, and then come back and do something else and then try it again. And that pendulation, right? And moving into those uncomfortable places just enough, especially when you're on your own, you're not being guided by a practitioner of any kind, just enough to stretch your capacity to be with yourself is already such a huge, huge step, because that's what will start to cultivate self-awareness.
Right.
Awareness really is the first step, and I don't just mean awareness of your action, awareness of your body, awareness of how you feel, right? And then as you start to get honest and more clear about some of the pieces that you start seeing, you know, journaling is a great practice for this as well. You'll be so surprised at how the books, the mentors, the friends start to fall in to fill in those missing pieces and support you on your journey. Because what I would say if somebody was saying this to me is, you don't need to do this alone. You don't need to do this alone. I know there's a part of you that believes that you have to do this all on your own, and that maybe it's even easier to just rely on yourself. You know, if you have more avoidant tendencies or anxious tendencies, sometimes it's just like, well, people are unreliable, so I'll just do this myself. Trust that the people, the places will show up, and when they do, take the courageous action of actually, like, you know, take like taking what's right in front of you, moving what's right in front of you, take that step, make that phone call, answer that message. And I would also say, you know, spend time connecting to the younger parts of you, right? So your inner 5-year-old, your inner 3-year-old, your inner 7-year-old, your inner 15-year-old, however you are, you can go, you know, you can go back and, for what were her fears? What were her ideas? What were her dreams? What was her self perception? And just get familiar, and you will be amazed, amazed at the wisdom that pours through from your inner child. It's
So
just so much to share with you, and it will illuminate a path forward.
it's a really beautiful place to be when we can witness our inner child, right? And
Yeah.
part of the parts work that goes along with the inner child, it's like the sister to it, would be to also recognize and honor that growth
Yeah.
today, right? And to
Yeah.
nurture the younger aspect of the 7-year-old, the 5-year-old.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
beautiful. That healing work is the is all of it is the most profound because they feel so good, as we
Yeah.
go through it. The work may be tough at times, but
Mhm.
it's so worth it. And it's just as delicious, everyone, as the feel good work, like the sensory absorption of, smells or tastes or touch or, you know, just being in the moment, literally intimate, because that's that place where you're not stopped in the moment with your spouse, your partner, or even with a close girlfriend, right? The communication, the conversations, it's
Mhm.
all so lovely.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It sure is.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what three tools would you like to share with us today that you believe everybody wants to know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I kind of shared one, which is connecting to your inner child. I mean, that to me is like it's my go-to.
Yeah.
It's connecting with that part of myself that feels vulnerable or insecure or wants to fit in or worries what other people thinks of her or is scared to stand out, or is scared to be left out of the pack, and so connecting with those like vulnerable parts of ourselves who have so much fear, but also my inner child holds so much wisdom. She knows what I love to do for play and for joy. And, like she holds this kind of my original blueprint as well, right? So I'd say, whether that is through finding where she lives in your body and placing your hand there and talking to her, or you might imagine where she lives in your body. You could do it through a journal. You could speak out loud. You could be guided by a facilitator. So inner child, connecting with your inner child to me is such a practice of devotion. She had a nickname, write it down and ask her how she's doing, and ask her what's on her heart, the way you would if there was any child, right? So really, for anybody watching this and you want to pass over this, yeah, I know, I've heard of inner child work. Now imagine there was a child sitting back there. I'm turning 38 years old. So for the last 38 years, there's been a child sitting there. Can you even imagine walking past the child every single day, days, months, years, without addressing them? Impossible. Just wouldn't happen. And it's the same thing. There is a child in you who's like, still needs some attention.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one.
Beautiful.
Somatic awareness.
Love it. Yeah.
So what's happening in your body? And before naming, I feel sad, I feel anxious, I feel excited, I feel overwhelmed. What's the sensation that you're feeling? Just start even with noticing sensations in your body, right? And being with those sensations, just be with them, even for 30 seconds. Be with the sensation. And then practice connecting with, I've just started downloading pictures of a new iteration of what my higher self looks like. So I'm finding these like goddess pictures, very like Isis energy and, really mystical. And so I can imagine, I imagine opening a door and standing face to face, sitting face to face with her, connecting with her, sensing into her energy, into her wisdom, asking her questions, letting her guide me, and then being the steward of her guidance.
Beautiful.
And really letting her live through me. Yeah.
Very lovely. Yeah.
I mean, there are so many, but those are three right there.
Okay, so connecting to the inner child. So I have connecting to the inner child and the somatic awareness. What was
and connecting with your higher self.
Okay, perfect.
So if you even want to have an image of, you could really have fun with this. And what is she like? And where does she spend her time? And what does she look like? And what does she wear? And play with finding an image and then connect with her in the 5D, just in a short visualization practice, meet with her and let her guide you.
Yeah. It's really, well, it is the most beautiful experience that we can have, is that deep connection to self. And taking the time to do that is also not just a growth space, but what the reward is that feel-good space. And that energy that we want, right, to have all the time being produced from us, for us, in lieu of us, all of it, It's not, people say, and you've heard this too in the very, very beginning when they start, oh, it sounds so selfish and it's arrogant, when really it's so primary to raising an evolved woman, a strong woman who's beautiful and glorious on the inside and outside and all around and
all the sides.
Exactly. It doesn't matter if you're, really tiny or if you carry weight. It doesn't matter. It's the evolution of who you are. And that's where the self-love journey, they go so beautiful out there, right? It's not just the mirror work, and it's not just putting on our makeup, and it's not just that stuff. It's really the depth of connecting to who you are. And no people know who you are, but you, until you also then share it with the world.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that space. It's, to me, it's a really yummy space, like how you talked about connecting with your higher self and also the somatic work. Because let's talk a little bit about the somatic work, because in that space, we can communicate with ourselves. Do I like the feeling that I'm feeling? And you can change the feeling that you're feeling.
Yeah.
Since I'm interviewing you, would you, it's my work too, but would you like to talk on it?
So you mean if you, while you're connecting with your body, you notice there's something that doesn't feel the best.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't that happen all the time?
Yeah. Until it doesn't, or until you're aware and you're like, oh, I got to change you right away. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love to practice being with it for a moment. And my experience is that when I really allow it, so I become aware of it and I allow it, and then I practice opening my body, right? So whether it's through breath or it's through movement, or it's through sound, letting out like a big, um, and what I notice is when I actually give space to the feeling, it starts to dissipate. It starts to break apart, like literally feeling it. If it was very dense, it starts to just do this and move in different directions, and suddenly it's not so heavy. It's not so dense in my body. In some moments I can really then replace it with another feeling, bring in the image of, one of my children or my partner, and I can, sit with the gratitude around that, and I can alchemize the feeling. And some days the best I can do is notice the feeling.
Mhm.
Notice the feeling, be with it for a moment. It starts to feel less dense, move on to another part of my day, then check back in. I'm feeling differently than I did earlier. Right? I moved, quite literally moved the energy by moving, taking a walk, focusing on something different, right? But if we don't take time to notice how we feel in our bodies, then those feelings are influencing us all day long, completely unconsciously. So we're snappy with the people around us, or we're not giving our input at the meeting, and we're not even aware of how we feel and how it's impacting how we're showing up. So at the very least, if I can't seem to shift a feeling one day, I can warn my family and say, I'm not in a good space today. Can you just tread lightly around me? Can you give me a bit of space today? So at the very least, it gives me an opportunity to communicate how I'm feeling and what I need in that moment.
Yeah. Do you ever, have you ever, and do you ever, and I'm sure you do you ever talk to it, like tell it, I don't want to feel this way. I'd like to feel joyous and have that come in. I think that that's also it's a beautiful connection, but also, like you said, there are those times when we just said it to my husband last night because I was 4 hours past eating.
Oh yeah, that would do it.
I was like, he kept saying, do you want this? Do you want that? And we're driving around and I'm like, I'm going to explode. But that was real instead of being crabby, which is not like me, right? It was an experience that I couldn't handle. And then what was very interesting was he got me something to eat. And then we came home and he started to make his dinner and he collapsed too. He's just like, and I said, you know what? Let me make you dinner. I don't make him dinner anymore very much. He's like, and so it was beautiful because I got to nurture him in that space. Thank you for reminding me of that, because that's really powerful to be able to witness when we're crazy and when we're not crazy. I mean, those are simple words for it, but and to honor that space. I got to experience what it's like not to eat when I need to eat, and then that in future will help support me either to identify it before
Yeah,
I go beyond my point, or
yeah,
just stick to a schedule that I know that works for me.
yeah,
And isn't that beautiful about that connection with our body like that?
yeah. I
So
mean, your body has so much to tell you. It has so much to tell you,
it
right? And so
does.
even just getting curious, right? And what is this feeling? How long has it been there? What's the story underneath? What's it trying to tell me? What would it like me to know more of, or do less of, or try differently?
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. That's awesome. Thank you. Do you have a free gift for everybody that you'd like to share?
I do. I think the one we had talked about was The Worthy Woman, which is a masterclass. I believe it's a 90-minute masterclass, really all about tapping into your worth and
Love
the ripple effects of that. You know, whether
it.
it's finances or love, and this
Yeah.
being in the essence of, there is nothing that makes you worthy. You simply just are. But there's a place within you who knows that, and there's a part of you that forgets that. So this is about awakening the part of you that forgets.
I love that. Can we talk a little bit? We are coming to the end here, but can we talk a little bit about the knowing that you are and
Mhm.
also the power? So we identify with it, but then we can take it further, right? Into
Yeah.
the declaration part of, wow, this is so
Yeah.
my breath.
Yes.
Talk a little
Yes.
bit about that.
Yes. Well, I mean, for anybody here who has children or who's been around children, right? You see these little beings be born, and you love them so much, and they're just perfect as they are, even if they're screaming or crying or whatever it is. It's like they're so connected to source. Every time I had a child, I've had two, and it's like, oh my God, you're so fresh. You're so fresh from source. Like it's an unbelievable thing. And so reminding ourselves, like, we are connected to source. The universe is magic, and I am part of that magic. I am literally made up of the same elements. So I am magic. There is magic within me. I've maybe forgotten it. I maybe, ideas have been imposed onto me. I've taken on other people's narratives and stories and feelings and, collective conditioning. Underneath that, I'm connected to, like, powerful, potent energy. Like, if you can even just take a moment right now to connect with your breath, where did that breath come from?
Mhm.
That breath, that, like, prana, it's connected to life force, and that life force is moving inside of you. And so when I can remind myself, I am magic, I am connected to magic, how could I not be worthy? Worthy actually doesn't even feel like a word that can even match the level of magic that I am and that you are. I use the word worthy because we're familiar with it, but
Right.
worthy almost implies that there's any opportunity that you could not be.
Mhm. Which we know is not the truth.
Exactly. It's not the truth,
Yeah.
but we forget.
Yeah. And this is why I love your work. Thank you. See, that was magic what you just spoke of. It's beautiful. Thank you so
Thank
much for joining us, Diana.
you for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Thank you. And thank you all, and we'll see you in another episode.